Break Fix Podcast is all about capturing the living history of people from all over the autosphere, from wrench turners and racers to artists, authors, designers, and everything in between. Our goal is to inspire a new generation of petrol heads that wonder, how did they get that job or become that person? The road to success is paved by all of us because everyone has a story.
Tonight, we're thrilled to welcome Steve Contarino, founder of Automobilia Vintage, a one-of-a-kind destination for collectors and enthusiasts passionate about automotive history and memorabilia.
From rare classic car artifacts to vintage racing posters and historic automobilia, Steve has spent years curating a collection that captures the spirits of motorsports across generations. We'll dive into his journey building Automobilia Vintage, the stories behind some of the most remarkable pieces in his collection, and what drives his passion for preserving automotive history for fans old and new. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just love the romance of classic cars, this episode is a pit stop you won't want to miss.
And joining us tonight is returning co-host Don Weberg from Garage Style Magazine, one of the many personalities on the Motoring Podcast Network. So welcome back, Don.
Thank you, Eric. Good to be here. Thanks very much.
And with that, let's officially welcome Steve to Break Fix.
Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's rewind the clock a little bit and talk about your superhero origin story in the automotive world. What inspired you to start Automobilia Vintage, and how did your passion for automotive history begin?
So the funny thing is, how did my automotive passion begin? You know, I've always been so interested in the automotive industry. How it began, boy, aren't we back here again with the implementation of technology and what? That electric car. So the horse and buggy, there was no way that automobile was going to make it because everybody's going to be riding horses forever. And yeah, it's just going to be a flash in the pan and it'll be gone. I like the little bits of history. So I've loved all things mechanical and automobile related. I remember one time I ran up to a car that was at a high-end auction and I said, why would there be a Model T here? And my friend said, Model T? Well, wait till you see what that goes for. Why? What's so special about a red Model T? I said, because it's red? And he said, that's not a Model T, that's a Model K. And I said, okay, tell me. Well, Henry Ford went bankrupt twice before he was actually successful. And that may have been three, I'm not sure. But just the history of that, who knew?
Well, you also have an interesting background, or we'll call it career, in the automotive industries. Little Birdie told me you were involved not only with police cars, but with Checker Cab.
Yeah, both. Being involved with Ford, Dodge, and Chevrolet, and then even a few of the companies who've actually come and gone in law enforcement. Tesla, they were in, they're out, they're back in again. Fisker actually dipped their foot in for a little while before the end. But there's been a lot of companies that have come and gone. You know, I've always followed automotive design, and why do they do that? Why do they do that? Why do they make it this way? Why is it that way? You know, I've been to many automobile factories, and I've always been so impressed by them taking pieces and parts and driving it out the other end. I never knew that most of these manufacturers, they don't even own what we call automobiles, or if you're from the New England area, cars. They're assembly. And I didn't know that. I said, well, wait a minute, what's an assembly? Well, assembly is an automobile, but it has not gone over that threshold to be sold. So before it's sold, it's called an assembly. It's been done for years, decades, forever and ever. And a lot of your followers probably don't even realize this. One of America's largest automobile manufacturers is located in Massachusetts. Still to this day. It's a company called Factory 5. They make a lot of different models. They're incredible. They make automobiles, but they don't put engines in. So they make assemblies. You know, I was so interested in that type of thing. I said, I want to do it. I want to make an automobile. I like this Checker automobile, but I just want to own it. I don't know why. I restore them. I have them. I'm going to own it. I got all the intellectual property and patents and anything that was available. Making an automobile was very, very difficult and expensive. It's billions, but legislation passed that you could build what was called replica automobiles, not knowing that this legislation was coming along. And then poof, you can make a small amount of automobiles and be successful just buying pieces and parts here and there, and body being the most difficult. Everything besides the body is easy breezy, but the bodies were the most difficult thing. And we had found some companies that actually make Camaro, Mustang, Bronco bodies. And we just said, hey, what about a checker body? And they were on board. So even the most difficult thing was not that difficult. Putting it all together was not that difficult. Meeting National Highway Transportation safety requirement, not that difficult. EPA came along, it wasn't that difficult until EPA decided gasoline powered engines were going to be something they would make impossible. But anyway, that's why it stopped where it did. California Air Resources Bureau said, let us think about it, and came back with a roadblock. That roadblock essentially ended the legislation that allowed the ability to make a gasoline powered automobile. So it all went crashing to an end. And to this day, everything's still in neutral. There's still some companies who are trying to trudge forward. But right now, there's legislation you can do it, but you can't power it. But putting an engine in the chassis in that vehicle is what creates what's called the requirement to meet EPA and California Air Resources Bureau, and that's a stumbling point. So right now, it's impossible to meet with any engine and transmission combination that's available. So I shouldn't say impossible, just extremely expensive. It's just not going to happen.
During your career, during your journey, you collected an entire car company, but then you've morphed this into collecting things from the automotive industry as well. So the birth of Automobilia Vintage. Why don't we switch gears and kind of talk about that? Where did that come from?
That's elementary. If you have 100 cars, which I did, checkers, it was restoration part, whatever you needed, we had it ready to go. Took up a lot of space, took up a lot of labor, took up a huge amount of money. Then I said, hey, wait a second. I could still do this. And I could get items that are not so big and don't take up so much room. Boy, if I love them, somebody else loves them. So I can love them for a little while and turn them on to the next caretaker. So it's like automobiles, but smaller. I've got quarter scale models. I've got all different size clay models from all the manufacturers. So it's just a way of being involved in the automotive industry, collecting automobiles, but in a smaller way. And it is fun. It's a lot of fun.
Steve, I'm going to guess you've been collecting for a lot longer than Automobilia Vintage has been in business. Been collecting since you were a kid, or how long have you been collecting?
I still have things from my young age. You know, I would say back to when I was 15, 14. I mean, I was working at 13. The things I would always collect were kind of always automotive related. You know, I worked at a towing service. I worked in all kind of industries that brought me near something related to the auto industry. My wife and I started Adamson Industries. I was 23, and she was 20. We were kids. The things that I saw throughout my career, I collected. It wasn't big, but it grew and grew and grew and grew. And today, yeah, it's a thing called Automobilia Vintage.
Okay, so how do you go about finding rare automobilia? Is there something you do specifically to find what you want, what you like? Is there some criterion that turns Steve on that says, oh, I've got to have that? Or is it just you're walking down an aisle at a swap meet, you see something, you think, oh man, I got to have that. You don't even know what it is. You never expected to find it. What is it? How do you go about finding rare stuff?
It's like a lot of car collectors will say, and you probably heard this before, the majority of it finds me. The rest of it, I'm always searching for. There's shows and there's books about finding that barn find, finding that hidden treasure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way, but I had to dial it back a little bit. And automobiles were something that it took up a lot of space. I mean, the scope of Adamson Industries, okay, just for example, when I had 100 checkers, it was taking the space of 100 cars. Adamson Industries on any given day had 300 cars on the ground.
Oh, wow.
You can imagine what it's like when you have 400 cars, but now you have 300 cars. It's big. It's a lot, especially when you are in an area where December-ish, things start changing quickly. When it snows, it's tough. So you think about, that amount of vehicles and trying to keep it so that they're not frozen in time. That's a monumental task. Cutting down 100 cars, it wasn't such a hard decision. It hurt my heart. I know a lot of enthusiasts thought it wasn't the right thing to do. I did take a lot of negative publicity about how I had no care for these cars. But I sit here today and I could have 100 of these small cars and they don't take up much room. And I can keep them under a roof where it doesn't snow on them, and I can manage that. It's much easier and much simpler, but it's just as rewarding. It really is enjoyable.
All right, so tell us the story behind finding one of your favorite or your most unique items in your collection.
I'm passionate. I really, really am. I look for a lot of things. Some days, there are days where I go, well, something, that could be my favorite. Or, no, that's my favorite. Or, that's my favorite. But I find these things that get closest to my heart, just like anybody else. You're not supposed to have that. So I have a few Mercedes design studies, and those Mercedes design studies were of things like a dune buggy. Mercedes never wanted to get let out that they were even thinking about making a dune buggy. So I've got these dune buggies, clay models, in 3 different versions of a beach type car. And that's what makes me passionate. That's what makes my blood boil, because they're things you're just not supposed to have. And why are you not supposed to have them? Well, back then, these aren't 2025 models. These are clay models from the 80s vintage. So, it's past the bang on the door from the legal department. But to think that somebody somehow carried them out of there, smuggled them out of there, who knows? Don't know. It's like a concept car. They're all supposed to be crushed, but yet a lot seem to appear. So that's exactly the things I love the most, are things that you're not supposed to have that. I have this quarter scale Ford model. I got a phone call. Hey, I know you're interested in these quarter scale models. I'm in a bind. I said, you're in a bind? What's the bind? I need this gone within 2 days. My office has been closed down in Sterling Heights, Michigan. I worked for Ford. Can't tell you any more than that. You want it picked up? Meet me at the corner of such. I said, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm on East Coast. Well, that's the only way you're going to get it. I had to call a friend of mine, meet this guy at the corner of such and such. He's going to hand you this big quarter scale model. Don't think I'm nuts. It's a baby car. He's like, what? I said, a baby car. It's a quarter scale model. It was just amazing that thing existed. It's amazing that thing made it past the security gates or however. And this is a little later model. This one's probably from the later 90s. So it's that stuff that's just amazing that it exists. And every day they're thrown into crushers or dumpsters or however they destroy it. And it happens. So it's like anything. A few squeak out, but the majority don't.
It's interesting, Steve, that you mentioned that, because Don has exposed me to some really unique pieces over the years. Like, hey, I met the designer of this thing and he had the prototype of this wheel or this component or this thing. And those little nuggets, those little hidden gems are always fascinating, those lesser known histories of these objects and these things that later came to production that we take for granted. And so I wonder, in your journey, in this case, you talked about going there and knowing exactly what you're getting, right? This thing's coming off the back of the truck. But was there ever an instance where in your journey and your collecting where somebody presented you with a box and until you actually went through it, maybe you put it to the side, that something popped out and you're like, oh my God, this was in the box. Did they make a mistake? Is there anything that's ever surprised or shocked you?
It happens all the time, especially when someone who's passionate has a collection. unfortunately, they don't always make arrangements for what would happen if something happens. And that something being either an illness or a death or something. I'll give you an example. I'm always looking for something. I'm on this auction site, train auction, like toy trains. I look and I go, wait a minute. That's not a toy train. That's a real train, real crossing gauge. I couldn't believe that there was such a following who would collect all this train stuff. So I started looking at it and, I said, wow, okay. And then I kept checking back because I was kind of interested. I said, trains, planes, automobiles, right? So kept looking. All of a sudden, this auction company pops up with 20 lots of Gordon Buring mobilia, including clay model of a concept he had to do a mobile office. When you wanted to do something with a client, we don't want the client to come to our office. We're going to bring our office to the client. He had this thought process. He was going to make this mobile office. Now, this is long after, the Auburn and designing all the cars. And this was later in his career. And that's an idea he came up with. And when I found that stuff, I was like, how does that have anything to do with trade? Well, Gordon Buring liked trains. Okay. His widow sold everything with the trains, and this auction company had the trains. It's amazing. And not only does it then include that, it includes some fiberglass cars that he was making based on Corvettes. He made like 3 or 4 of these neoclassic Corvettes, all kind of documents, pictures, literature, cases and cases of these leather bound, handmade prospectus that you would hand to somebody if you wanted them to back you financially or a dealership or something. That stuff is just amazing. And that it existed, that I found it at a train auction, and that it's available now because I've had it. Now I share it. So what I say is, I love it. I love the fact of what it is, but there's going to be somebody who's going to love the Gordon Buring connection, and it's available. So I have that. And then I have all kind of automotive related items that have a story. And remember, everybody always says it's not about what it is, it's the story. Where did it come from? Why is it unique? And almost to a negative, I list as much information as I can, and I talk about not only the item, but why, where it's from, what it is, what it's made of, why it was made, and so much of it. It's all rich with automotive history. It's all very, very exciting to me. I enjoy it very much.
And Steve, you have all these items from that train auction?
I do. And I was very successful on 20 of 20.
Wow.
No, I mean, it was out of place. It shouldn't have been there. And I see that a lot.
Is that a case of people not knowing what they have, or is it just wanting to get rid of it quickly? What do you think the method is behind that?
All of the above. I think that auction companies, a lot of times, unless you hit the right one, they're going to look at the bulk of what you have. They don't look at the individuals of it. If you go to a specialized auction, they'll do the back work on it. I bought things at auctions, and even some of the most well-known automotive auctions, they'll have something on a shelf and they'll say, toy car. I'll say, well, what kind of toy car? Well, we don't know. It's a toy car. Well, give me some details. It's pretty big. How big? Well, 3 feet long. I'm like, okay. And in my mind, you know how that slot machine goes ding, 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 ding. So I'm like, there's no 3 foot long toy cars that are made of clay that I know of, except for concept models. And
Right.
I've done it and I've seen it, and it still happens all the time. It's a toy car. I mean, I don't know why they didn't do the back work. They're auctioning off 100 cars and maybe 200 pieces of automobilia, and that thing just happened to be, I don't know, it's a toy car. It's not a real car. What are we going to say? Toy car. Okay.
So you've mentioned a couple times auction companies and things like that where you're going to select things from your own collection or you're maybe finding those hidden gems that we've been alluding to. But with the rise of popularity of shows, and some of them have been around for a long time, like the Wolf Brothers on History Channel with American Pickers and things like that, where do you go pick? Where are your best finds? And what do you recommend for other people? I mean, outside of Automobilia Vintage, they should come to you first. But if they were going to pick, and go look for items, where should they be looking?
That's a very difficult question. It doesn't really have a go here answer. You're always going to have things on eBay that are listed toy car. There's a lot of cool stuff on eBay. Unfortunately, it's like everything else. It's like looking through the phone book and trying to find the A's. There's a lot of A's in that phone book. What's a phone book? Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. A big book. Dictionary. There. You go through that dictionary and you're looking for the letter A's. It's just, there's a lot of them. And you've got to look and they go, oh, well, wait a minute. I'm only looking for capital A's. That narrows it down quite a lot. So, yes, eBay, I mean, all different flea markets. You can find automobilia everywhere. You could find things related to the auto industry and clay models everywhere. It's just a matter of having the diligence to keep looking and realizing, well, wait a minute, this is a concept car. 143rd? Yes, they designed this car. And I said, no, it's kind of small. I can't see them bringing that up to the boss's office and say, boss, listen, we designed this little car right here. This is going to be the car. So you get the opposite too. You'll get all these, well, this is a real rare Tesla concept car. So I guess Tesla had this event, and you went to this event. In exchange for going to this event, they were 3D printing the next type of car they were going to make. As you guys know, the models are SEXY. There are many versions of the SEXY that were handed out, and they were 3D printed models. But what's happened is they weren't done well enough that somebody could copy them. So you got to make sure you know what you're looking at. And the real Tesla models all had numbers on the bottom of them. They were much better done than just somebody 3D printing 1/24th or slightly larger model. That's what you got to do. You have to really look. And another thing is know what you're looking for. You've got these large auction companies and they've got what they call automobilia experts. That is such a broad statement. I mean, automobilia can be a sign, it could be anything, but are they experts on automotive related collectibles? I get a lot of calls about that. Well, what do you think? And I try to help people out the best I can and also to secure that item so that I can have a chance to own it for a little bit of time. It's really a learning experience. And I know there's a lot of companies that sell automobilia and individuals who sell automobilia, but they don't specialize in that right from the factory stuff. That's me. I want a stuff that comes right out of the factory. I want the stuff that wasn't supposed to leave. Okay, here's a perfect example. I love hood ornaments. I love mascots. Okay, one day perusing on eBay in England, there's this flying lady, the Spirit of Ecstasy, the famous mascot that's on a Rolls Royce. This one's root beer colored. And I said, why is there a root beer colored flying lady? So I asked the man about the flying lady, and he replied, he said, that's a prototype. And I said, what do you mean it's a prototype? And he said, well, there was a problem. Rolls-Royce couldn't meet the USA pedestrian crash standards with that rigid hood ornament because if they hit a pedestrian, it was like a spear. And this was a prototype. And I said, well, what do you mean? It'll shatter. I said, it'll shatter? They said, yep, it's made of a special material and it'll shatter. And I said, well, how do you know that? And he said, because I made it. And I said, you made it? And he said, yes, I did. I was involved. And I said, okay, would the purchase of that item include your statement, all about it? Absolutely. This guy went Never mind the extra mile. I got a CD of the testing. I got the drawings. I got the drawings of the real one that actually went on the American made car with the spring in it. And I got the whole story. I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe that that had happened. All it was a matter of doing a little bit of research, asking a bunch of questions, and seeing something that didn't quite look right and getting the right answer, getting the right information that made that item legitimate.
There's only one other place that comes to mind that has a collection of concepts and clay models and things like you're mentioning. So I wonder, have you ever dealt with the National Museum of Automotive Design down in the Carolinas?
I have not. I've heard of it. It's on my list, but I definitely want to get there. And I do know of it. Yeah, I actually do. But I have not had any interaction with them.
Can you tell us about a memorable interaction with a fellow collector or an enthusiast that maybe helped shape your journey?
You meet a lot of people. And I'm going to say a name, and you know him, Don. You know him very well. And his name is Gary Wales.
Oh, yes.
So you know what he did before he was a mad scientist of the creator of these monstrous automobiles, right?
Right.
That's amazing. I spent a lot of time talking to him about his experiences and whatnot. And I'm going to tell you, I met Gary at one of the garage tours.
Now you understand why I use so many voices because no matter where I turn, I'm getting blamed for everything. Here he is blaming me for meeting Gary Wales. It's not my fault. You just happen to be at the same place, but I'm getting blamed for it.
Mm-hmm. Gary amazes me because he just keeps going. His mind, you ever say, boy, I'd love to see the window into that mind. And every time I see one of his creations, it's just amazing. But Gary, he's got a lot of that automobilia and all those kinds of cool things. But yeah, I got to tell you, he's one of the guys. I met Bob Lutz and spent some time talking to him. You bump into a lot. You really, really do. There's a lot of great automotive icons out there.
Tell us a little bit about Jerry.
Oh, Jerry. So Jerry was real dear friend. Jerry and I met about, God, I want to say 40 years ago. I had a passion for Rolls Royces. Jerry was the Rolls Royce aficionado, one of America's top automotive appraisers, collector of all things automotive, an encyclopedia of anything to do with automobiles. He's the one who said, "That's a Model K." And I'm like, "Oh, it is?" These conversations that Jerry and I had, they were well into the night after walking all day at shows, whether it be Hershey or Monterey or SEMA in Las Vegas, Scottsdale, or any of it. I mean, we talk about design. Did you see the rear end of that car? Did you notice that way they painted that so it looked like it was longer? All that type of thing. So Jerry and I, like I said, it was a 40-year run. He was 30 years older than me. I was always accused of being his son, and Jerry would laugh. He was a big collector of automobilia. He only had a few cars. I've always had a few more than him, but Jerry was just a wealth of knowledge, a great cheerleader, too. And that's what everybody needs is a cheerleader and a friend to always keep them going. That's one of the things, Jerry, he was my cheerleader.
As many of our listeners know, Don is the yin to my yang, right? But we both cherish the collecting part of the automotive world. And as people see in the behind the scenes videos, the studio here, I've got racing memorabilia all over the place, but it's very different than classic car memorabilia where people will outfit their garages like you would see on Garage Style magazine. Hey, I'm a Hudson guy and I bought all the Hudson stuff I could possibly find, or, the Hemi Hideout or whatever it is, when they focus in on the cars that they have in their garages. Whereas Motorsport, I think we're more about the drive driver. It's like if it's got Ayrton Senna's name on it, I'm probably going to pick it up and buy it, or have a copy of it or whatever it is. I noticed even behind you, you've got a vintage sign that says Auto Races Today, which was probably part of some dirt track in New England somewhere, that kind of thing, pointing the spectators to where they needed to go. Let's talk about the balance and the relationship of automobilia and preserving the history of motorsport.
I think it's really important because, again, being a New Englander, I oftentimes get to go to Newport. And a matter of fact, the Newport Concourse is coming up. And you go out to Monterey and it's all about the races, the vintage races. Well, that just happened to be a place where it landed. But, you think about going to Newport, Rhode Island. What does that have to do with the automobiles and automobilia and all that? It was a stopping point before they created the Cape Cod Canal. You couldn't go to Boston by ship from New York. You had to go to Newport and catch the train from Newport to Boston. Well, Newport became the playground of the rich and famous. That's the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers. You've heard them all. But remember, they had to have the first automobile, the first of all. And those automobiles and that richness of that area resonates. And why? Well, it got competitive. It wasn't competitive of just, I have a car, you have a car. Then it became racing. And what? The Vanderbilt Cup. So, you talk about motorsports. It's like always evolving. You've got this trend. People want to follow NASCAR. Now it's F1 and they do the alternative fuels. And then there's vintage racing. It's kind of the foam that comes out from the top of the automotive world. Racing and automobiles go side by side. That's just something you can't look over. I mean, there's so many levels of automobilia. You mentioned pickers, and you look at what they go after, and they go after such a broad range of items. It's basically anything that's old. Don't take that as okay, anything that's old is not exciting. It is. It's just that it's a lot. That now means old everything, old furniture, old items. Well, the automotive industry, although it's old, it's not really that old. You look at any of the shows that follow early times, Boardwalk Empire.
Well, the Gilded Age is the new one.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say Gilded Age, but Gilded Age is a spinoff of Bridgerton. So here we are, Bridgerton, they're riding horses and carriages. And then the Gilded Age, what happened? They're in New York City. What is that thing making all that noise? It's the motor car. There's a lot of people who don't even realize car, motor carriage, carriage. It's the evolution. What came with that evolution? We call it motorsports. My horse is faster than your horse.
Goes back to the chariots.
Right. Well, okay, let's go back that far. My chariot's faster than your chariot,
That's
right?
right.
Steve, you do know when the first race took place, right? You heard that story, how the very first motor car race took place. You heard when that happened, right?
I did. Yes. Yes.
It happened when the second car was built.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that's something interesting that Don is foreshadowing my next question, in the sense that I wanted to ask you about the historical significance of some of the pieces, because we've been talking about that basically this entire time. And so what's funny is when you're looking at a piece, and we're talking about picking, we're talking about, building our collections and things like that. If you and I went to a swap meet together and came across a Haviland, Valvoline, maybe a Texaco sign, I don't think we would have the same opinion of it, because I'm thinking Texaco, Kmart, IndyCar, Mario Andretti, or I'm thinking Valvoline, Al Unser Jr., something like that. And you're going, well, isn't this a nice porcelain, whatever sign? Where is that intersection? How do you create a balance between the stories, or do you just self-identify with the piece and it means something to you at the end of the day?
Different people are going to look at different items in a different way. You're going to look at that Halvoline sign and you're going to think about racing and motorsports and what things that you're passionate. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to think about, wow, isn't it amazing that they had to come up with a company to create this lubricant and fuel for automobiles? Someone else is going to look at it and go, wow, I remember seeing that sign when I was a little kid going to fill up my bicycle, the air in the tire. So everybody's going to see something from a different point of view. And that's what makes us all different. That's what makes us all unique. And that's what makes us all able to see things from a different angle. And that's what it comes down to. It's a human trait to be able to see things differently. And you're exactly right.
The reason I brought that up is because I think it changes our perspective on the value of the item. And so when I look at that sign, maybe I'm going, well, it wasn't signed by Andretti, but if it was, it'd be worth more. And you're looking at it going, no, you don't understand. It was made in 1963 and it was done this way and using this paint, and it is worth what they want for it. And so how do we settle those arguments about what something is worth, the memories of the memorabilia versus the aesthetics of the memorabilia? How do you draw a balance when you acquire something, what you should be paying for that item?
I got to go back to what my friend Jerry used to say. You can do an appraisal, and you could do an appraisal for value, and you could do an appraisal for worth. Although both words sound the same, they're very far from the same. What the value of something could be one thing. What something's worth is a lot different. That could be anything for any reason. It could be a connection. It could be a family connection. It could be an automotive type connection. That's something that I've seen happen with everything I've ever done related to the automobile. Different feelings from different people because what it's worth is different. What it's valued at may not be, because a value is something that you compare other things. Okay, let's say a Volkswagen Bug. Volkswagen Bug is very, very valuable. Okay, what's it worth? Well, it's worth what this other Volkswagen Bug is worth, 25,000. But why does one sell for 125,000 then? Because somebody had more worth to that vehicle than value. Same with automobilia, same with all of the different things that I have. If somebody's got a personal connection to it, that worth could be anything. That price paid could be satisfaction. One of the particular categories I want to say that I have is a category called Fisher Craftsman's Guild cars. You will very rarely see me sell those. The reason I very rarely sell those is because not only are they part of General Motors history, because General Motors creates this contest where young adults are going to create these automobiles. They have no computers, they have no TVs, they have time to put 1,000 hours hand carving or creating this futuristic type automobile. That's easy. Kids got nothing to do. So they did it. And what were they doing it for? Grand prize, a college scholarship. Second prize, a trip out to General Motors headquarters and a tour of the plant and a trophy. And, third prize. So they had all these levels. And these cars are all works of art. Even the ones that you look at and go, that was made by a kid. But some kid took the time to be able to put it into that item. And those items are really, really worth a lot to me. And they're worth a lot to me because A, they're related to the automotive industry, but B, some persons did that work. It wasn't a designer who was getting paid to do it. It wasn't somebody who expected to win. They hoped they win. They didn't expect to win. Those Fisher cars are worth a lot more to me. Are they valued a lot more? Probably not, because it's very hard to value the Fisher cars because some of the more higher value ones are more intricate and more complex, but yet the ones with the history from A to Z, and I mean the person's name, the awards they won, where they placed, written dossier or how the whole thing was done and why, and maybe the son wrote it because their father told them. How about if it was somebody whose grandfather told the father and the father passed the item down to the son, the grandson? I mean, that's different. And those particular cars are worth a lot to me.
I think there also becomes a point at which there's maybe a little bit of guilt when you're collecting. And I know I've had this conversation with Don before where it's like, well, I could spend 200 bucks for the real thing or 20 bucks for the repop, but it depends on how you're trying to outfit your collection, right? So there's a difference between like what you're doing, you're amassing these very unique, very particular things, but if I'm trying to outfit, a shrine or a garage mahal, sometimes I have to compromise on the quality versus the quantity of things that I want to put up on the wall.
Well, yeah, but I was just recently at a location. They had a very big auction, and it was a combination of all different types. And what I mean by types, meaning originals, asterisk, which means maybe, and then what they call decorative. And those decorative items sold at a different price than original. They really did sell differently, but collections are made up of what makes people happy, right? If you wanted something and you like it, well, that's part of your collection. Doesn't all have to be top notch, grade A. And that's why, going back to pickers, one of the greatest things I like about the show, besides I like the way they do what they do, is they're saving things that may not be number one condition and may not be of value to somebody. They just feel that it's worth saving. That's a whole different way to look at it. Different collections are of different types of levels of quality.
I want to get your take on how you've seen the collector community evolve over the years from, say, when you first started. What trends are you seeing now? What trends did you see back then?
There are sign collectors, and then there are car collectors that collect signs, and there are a myriad of things between them. And what I mean by that is some will not allow something that's not original to be part of their car sign collection. Sometimes the cars are more important than the signs. Sometimes the signs are as important as the cars. And I've seen that at all different public museums, private collections, auctions. You always see that. And that's kind of what makes the world go around. Some people are very finicky about it's not real, and others are fine with that. Others understand that, the automobiles are the basis of this, and these collectibles is decoration. So they look at it differently. I try to stay away from things that aren't historically tied to something. I do have some things that are in the category of gotta find out because I just don't know. And that could be something simple as a little whittled out of piece of wood car. And I say, well, I gotta find out about this. Is it something that just looks old but is really not that old? It's a thing of doing the research to find that out. But how has it changed? One of the things I needed to see that the automotive collector car industry was alive and well. We went through COVID, we came back, and it's different. Nobody knows if it'll ever be the same. And your idea of different might be different from my idea of different. But one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of car collectors started saying, well, I'm dialing it back. I'm gonna reserve my money now. Geez, this whole way the whole world was that time. I don't ever want to be nervous. I want to have a lot more money in the bank and less money in the garage. I want to collect less. And what that did was it really started to make the collector car industry and signs and mobilia and everything change because the demand also changed. Because here we were with a culture of older generation doing the buying, and after COVID, a younger generation coming in. And the younger generation happened to appreciate different things. What was appreciated wasn't necessarily historic. Things that were valuable before COVID became not quite as valuable after COVID. So the values definitely changed. The worth is still all over the place, but the values changed. This past weekend with that Mecum auction, summary, the collector car industry is alive and well. The numbers were back to where it should be. If it's got the story, they were willing to pay. Some of the numbers that were always really low, the automobilia was selling well, the automobiles were selling well. The crowd that was there was different. It wasn't like it used to be, a lot of internet, a lot of phone, a lot of absentee. That's never going to change. It's not going to come back. It's always going to change. So that whole what was it and what is it? What's the future going to be is still up in the air. But it was really, really a special moment to see that things are back to where at least somewhat normal. Somewhat.
I mean, let's face it, COVID was what, 5 years ago? You had older collectors buying, selling, etc. COVID shakes everything up. Do we have a larger glut of younger new collectors in the market now? Or is it still the same old guard? Or is there a merger going on? What do you see?
That's a whole big question. And my opinion of that is the workplace changed. And the workplace changed from the Bob Lutzes and the Lee Iacocca's, the automotive icons. They were there and they weren't going anywhere in their 30s and 40s. And they weren't going anywhere in their 50s. And they weren't going anywhere even into their 60s. Those days are gone. A lot of what they call legacy costs are gone. Most of the high paying jobs, they're younger people. They're not as driven by history. They're not as excited by why is it like that? It's more to them, well, why isn't it this way? And that whole working from home thing and that whole being a president of a company a lot younger of an age, and the way the whole workforce is now, where people they're hanging on to their money because they feel that, they can't be frivolous. Yeah, it's definitely different.
There is definitely some truth to everything you just said there, Steve, but I also think there's a slightly different dynamic that's occurring in the collector space. And I can only speak for my generation because I'm a generation behind you guys. And then I can look down the generations behind me. And if you think about it, it has a lot also to do with what you imprinted on when you were young. And so when I look around my office, I look at things and I'm very grounded in the 80s and the 90s. And even in motorsport, it's like, come talk to me about Senna and Schumacher. I don't want to really talk about Vettel and Hamilton, and that's past my generation. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up with that. But the thing is, I don't identify as much with the doo-wop era of the 1950s and the Dolce Vita era of the early 60s, right? For me, that's not my time period. Just in the same way, I appreciate a Packard. Am I going to go buy one or stuff related to it? Probably not. I mean, that's my grandfather's generation, of kind of car that they aspire to. What I'm getting at, though, is right now, though, the people that are in charge of creating new Petroliana and new Automobilia are in my age demographic, and you're seeing a lot of things that are leaning back into the 80s, and it's in markets where you didn't expect them to be. Prime example, I keep making the joke, the people in charge at Lego right now must be kids of the 80s because everything that's coming out is Nintendo and Nigel Mansell and this and that, and it's all of that era. They're not doing a 1953 Corvette. They're doing a 1984 C4 Corvette. So they're catering to the market that has the money, which is going to be the kids that are now in their 40s and in their 50s. So I think you're seeing that shift. Now, beyond my generation, and I don't want to make a gross generalization here, there is a minimalist movement where collecting is not that important anymore. And so I grew up in an era where we were the last of the analog kids, but the first to adopt digital. So we're in this weird gray space where we appreciate both. But the further you get into the digital generations, the less material things are important to collect because they're not bits and bytes. So you have that working against the collector market.
Well, that's absolutely true. But you know something? There were three guys, I think it was 1934, and they had pencils and they had paper. And they said, well, let's write down our thoughts here. Let's talk. And they said, well, what about horses? What about buggies? What about this? And one of them said, it's never going to be like that. Nobody keeps horses as pets anymore. Horses were work animals. What you're going to see is you're going to see people with yards, with bushes, and no more horse pastures and all that stuff. And the one guy who was really, really smart said, you know what? Someday I'm going to have a great grandson and he's going to have a thing called a podcast. And his name is Eric. They said, "How do you know all that?" I don't know. It's a guess. Yeah, right. That story, it's going to keep changing because that's what history does. So yeah, you look back and well, they were talking about different things than we're talking about here today. And I absolutely agree with you 100%. But is some part of collecting preserving history? Or is some part of collecting just, well, if it makes me feel good? Again, it's like, okay, what drives you? How do you see it? And I see it as I collect, but I also like to have the history. I like the history. But there's other people who say, no, I want to have this. I want to have all blue cars. I want to have all this, or I want to have all that. And so there's different reasons. It's like everything else. But yeah, I agree with you, Eric. You're absolutely right. Times change. Nobody's collected typewriters anymore. They don't understand why you would want to collect a typewriter, right? You know?
I'm glad you said that clarification there of people, I collect this because it's blue. I collect this because of the history. I'm not going to go too far down the trough, but I think a lot of collecting in recent years, it's almost like you have to qualify it. Why do you, oh, well, I collect this because William Sykes III designed it in 1712. And William Sykes's father was the architect who this building in Brussels and this building fell on 1 million people. I mean, who cares? Okay, really, who cares? Do you like it? Do you like that weird thing hanging on your wall? Because if it doesn't bring you joy, it's an investment. So we're going to go invest in this stuff. I think that was a problem with the 80s. And you remember the 80s all too well, Steve. Everybody's running around buying Mustangs and Thunderbirds. Why? Holy cow, they were worth a fortune. And then what happened in the 90s? Uh-oh, they leveled out.
The smart guy in the 80s would have bought as many DeLoreans as he could have, right?
100%. 100%. And Chrysler TCs by Maserati.
Oh my God. So there you go. You know what? You're exactly right. It's what drives you. And yeah, it does get old. Sometimes somebody will talk the ears off you about something, and do you really need to know all that backstory? And yeah, you're right. It's absolutely true. And they go, well, why does Rolls Royce have that lady on the front? It's like, that's weird. She looks like she's like got these wings. That's not real. They don't want to know that whole backstory and all that stuff, and that's perfectly fine.
Then there's some 17-year-old on YouTube presenting it as if it's new information all over again, right?
Right.
Right,
Well, and
right,
that's just it.
right.
There's an amazing story. You're right. And I know you know it, Steve. There's an amazing story behind the Spirit of Ecstasy. I mean, it's the stuff that movies are made of. It really is. And when you learn it, I think that adds to the allure. Look, when I was a little kid, one of my very first cars, aside from DeLorean, was Rolls Royce. And I just thought they were fascinating. I thought it was amazing that somebody would take 8 to 9 months to build a car. I mean, that would just blew my mind. The paint was 5 feet thick. The car weighed over 5,000 pounds. It was honestly just astonishing to me, this car. The real wood inside. Are you kidding me? I grew up in LTDs. We had nothing but fake stick together wood in our interiors. It was something else. But these Rollses had real wood. That really impressed me. It amazed me. As time rolled on, I learned more and more about the company. It made me like it more. It made me like the car more. It made me like the hood ornament, made me like everything about the company more.
Something dawned on me while you guys were talking about the trends in the collector market and things like that. And I think the point at which everything shifted, sort of that event horizon, and we've talked about this on Break Fix before. We actually have episodes dedicated to the linkage and the crossover between the music industry and the automotive world and how one influences the other. And if you think about it, collecting changed for everybody, almost everywhere, simultaneously, when you could no longer really buy an album. When music went digital and you were paying 99 cents a song from Apple or Spotify or whoever it was, you're no longer rushing off to Tower Records or Waxy Maxis or whatever it was to buy that new CD where only 2 out of 14 songs were any good on that album. That's when collecting changed. Because if you think about what you talked about, Steve, with all the history and the minutia, people knew that stuff about record albums and the vinyl pressings and where the album was recorded and when it it was recorded and what John Lennon was thinking when they wrote the song, like all this immense detail. And you saw that in other forms of collecting. And once music changed, I think the rest of collecting changed along with it.
You're right. It's definitely trends. Think about this. How many people still collect stamps? I remember when I was young, that's a big thing. Collecting stamps. You don't really hear much about that, but yet there's a whole other arena of stamp collector shows. It's nowhere near what it used to be, but yet it still exists. It's just on a smaller scale. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Popularity definitely changes as time goes on. The automobile, I think, is with us to stay for a while. I mean, I don't quite see the flying car taking off literally yet. Here we are stuck with technology. And, well, yeah, we do it differently today, but it's the same. But it's trends, and it's always going to be that way. Collecting will always be a trend. And you know, one of the things that I was surprised that crossed over this particular year was a whole group of collectors of travel agent mobilia. Not Expedia. That's not a travel agent. So all these travel agents, okay, they got all these like promotional items from the airlines, planes and little statues and all kind of goodies. There's a whole different arena of collectors that's what they collect is old travel agent stuff and old Pan Am signs and the Pan Am plane, and it changes. It's always changing. What do you collect from Expedia? You know, I don't know. Who knows? But yes, you're absolutely right. It is going to change. Who's to say? The future of automobilia seems to be like it's going to travel with the automobile. Then maybe it'll go up when there are no automobiles anymore, whatever that thing might be, the Jetsons. We all watched the Jetsons, but yet you never saw a Texaco gas pump in the little car landing area. And you never saw George show you his collection of famous S&H green stamp things. They forgot all that, right? Well, what happened to all the cars? You know, where did they all go? Where's all that Mobil and Exxon and all those gas pumps? And where'd all that stuff go? Oh, the car's gone. Did we got the Jetson Mobile? There's no history. Where did it all go? Could that be a future? We sure thought so when we were little kids, didn't we?
For sure.
Which for me, I started collecting very, very early because I was just psychotic, basically. Let's say somebody's getting into the automobilia thing. They've been lightly interested in it. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. Aside from telling them, hey, check out Automobilia Vintage to see what we've got, what advice would you give them? I mean, how would they start? Where would you tell them to start?
You buy what you like.
Hmm.
What I like might not be what you like. That's why if you take a look at the things that I offer for sale, they're all over the place. I have different things. I don't specialize in one particular thing. It's all over the place. So I always say it. And, and that's like right back to the story of what we were talking about. What's worth, what's value. So buy what you like. That's the advice I give somebody. You know what? If you like it, it's always going to be worth more, right? If you really like something and you say, oh, well, I like that because whatever the reason, you could have a reason. And that reason is what this is all about. Why do I come down here in my garage every day? Why do I do this? Because it makes me happy. Why do you want to drive around in an old car that's going to break down on the side of the road? Well, because when it's not broke down, it makes me happy. So that's what it's all about. It's our happiness. And there's some people who are perfectly fine sitting in front of a keyboard all day and going, I like watching the stock. So that makes them happy. And there's other people who say, I like looking at my bank book. And that makes me happy. It's all about that. It's that happiness. And it's about, okay, what does it take to say, I really like that? And that's what I say. Don't buy something because I say it's valuable. Don't buy something because you saw it on this podcast and I say, well, over the next 10 years, these are going to appreciate it 50% per year. And I guarantee that or your money back. It's not about that. That's why they sell gold and silver in places, and it's overpriced. It's in the back of magazines. So people buy things sometimes because of that. But no, don't do that. Buy what you like. And I know plenty of people who've bought those gold things and silver.
Don likes those Franklin Mint cars.
Well, guess what? If you bought them a while ago, probably really happy right now, right? So, I mean, it's just what makes you happy. And different people will see something through their own eyes. Could there be 5 people that see that? Yeah. Most auctions involve 2. Sometimes it involves more than 2. Sometimes it could be 10. That's when you'll see the crowd going wild, when 10 people really see the worth in something, not the value. And that's conversations that you'll always have with somebody who shares the passion that you have, like all 3 of us do, in fact. You share that passion. It's a common ground. It makes us as humans compatible because we could talk about something that we all like. So, you do what you like, buy what you like, look at something and say, I like that. And when it becomes worth 10 times the amount of money, that could make you very, very happy. But it also could be something that never is worth more than the day you bought it, but it still will make you very happy. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen it a lot with the things I sell. I see it a lot with the cars I've sold. I saw it a lot, especially with Checker. Owning Checker brought a lot of people to me. People who said, I remember on the way to the hospital in the back of a Checker, my son was born in a snowstorm. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's great. But see, that's something they relate to. I have people call me up and they go, well, my father, he had a Fisher Craftsman's car, and I wish I could find that. It really meant a lot when I was young. So there's different stories you're going to hear and different reasons why different people will do different things. But you know what? It's like they say, different strokes for different folks. So buy what you like. If you feel like you like that, that's how you do it. Don't go to a book and go, oh, wait a minute, that's $25 and I only see it in the book at 20. If you really like it, pay the 25. You'll be happy.
See, Steve, you remind me of that lady that was on Netflix, Marie Kondo. If it brings you joy, keep it. It's the same idea, right? At the end of the day.
Not everybody's always happy. Just having a bunch of happy things doesn't make a happy person. And that's what life's all about, learning what things make you happy and sometimes saying, I don't think I'm ever going to be happy again. But then maybe sometimes some of this stuff just does help, doesn't it?
All this automobilia philosophizing brings us to Steve. Where do you see Automobilia Vintage going, your new company? What projects are exciting about it? What's next for Steve? What's up for Automobilia Vintage?
It's like with any startup of any company, not necessarily bigger, but definitely better, definitely a more easier and a more streamlined approach to this whole thing. You live and you learn and you learn, you make your mistakes and don't we learn by them? So, I want to make it better. I want to make it easier for our client to deal with. I want to be able to offer a service instead of putting that stuff with the trains. I'm not famous enough yet to help with that. I would like to be able to help with that so that those automobile related items, that automobilia, gets into the right channel to go to the right place. Because I don't know what would happen. 20 out of 20, it's a good batting average. But it also makes me think, well, what if I was the only? I believe I was. And when I went to pick it all up, and the auctioneer said, I'm so glad it's all going to stay together. And I thought, oh my God, that's quite an honor, but you were running an auction. You could have put this as one lot. Well, no, we thought it would be better if somebody wanted this or somebody wanted that. And I said, well, I'm going to keep it together. If it's available, it will be together so that if somebody has, a reason to want it all, they will have the opportunity to purchase it all. That's what it comes down to, right? Making it better, making it be better known, however that becomes, can go as fast as possible and get up higher faster. So that's what it's all about, right? We give a better experience. And that's one of the things, all of my 7 businesses that I've ever had, I always wanted to offer a better experience. Everybody can do what you do, but you could give them a better experience. And is that not something that's lost today? Try to call somebody at eBay, try to call somebody at Expedia, try to call somebody at UPS. I can give a better experience. You call, it goes to my cell phone. You can contact me.
And Steve, to be clear, Automobilia Vintage is not an auction. It's a place to go to purchase direct. Is that right?
It is. I really feel like an auction is a place where you can go and you have to control your emotions, right? You have to. It's like anything else. If you're there and there's no sky, you could be pretty high without a parachute. So what I try to do is I try to offer the unique items. One of the things that I don't do is say I'm firm. I put a price on something, but if somebody calls and says, I am very reasonable. Most of the time, it ends up being the freight. Sometimes it could be less. But I try to give everybody that same opportunity I got. And unfortunately, I feel like, an auction, it doesn't give everybody a fair shot. I mean, somebody's got to be a winner. Well, what's that make the guy who wasn't a winner?
First runner up.
Okay. And we also give everybody a star for effort.
Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to say. I like the auction, but I'm not crazy I'm not sold on that idea quite yet, because I just don't like that fact of putting someone who wants something in that position. I mean, if it's a disposal situation, which a lot of auctions are, they just got to get rid of this stuff. That's different. But to say, oh, well, hey, look, today we're going to offer something, as buyers, we don't like that, right? What if you went in the grocery store and said, hey, here's your steak. Oh, wait a minute, $5, $6, $7. Do I hear 8, 9, 10, 12, 12? Oh, Don, you're not eating tonight. Eric, you're the winner of this steak. Don, hit the road. So, I mean, we don't like being put in that position, and I don't want to put my clients in that position. I'm trying to make it just what it is: fun, happy, part of an experience.
All right, Steve. Well, we've reached that part of the episode where I like to invite our guests to share any shout outs, promotions, thank yous, or anything else we haven't covered thus far.
Well, how can I not thank you, Eric? You gave me an opportunity to tell all of your wonderful listeners exactly how I see things. It's all opinion. It's all based upon things that I've had in my 62 years of experience. And that's it, right? I mean, I can't tell you that I went to the school of automobilia, because I didn't. And I can't tell you that I graduated with a degree in automobilia, because I didn't. And again, I can never forget my friends. So I can't forget Dawn. And, I can't forget the first time I picked up this wow magazine called Garage Style and met the man behind it. I just thought it was so fabulous. And, I have to tell you, all the years of knowing Dawn, Dawn's been there for me. So I have to say thank you to Dawn. I'll never forget it. And there's just so many other people I've met through Dawn as well, that are just fantastic car guys, car girls. It's wonderful. And that's one of the things I enjoy the most. That's why I say thank you for coming to Automobilia Vintage. We hope you had a great experience. And that's what it's all about.
You're too kind, Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Don. And thank you, Eric, both. Really, it does mean a lot to me.
From uncovering rare treasures to preserving the rich history of motorsports, Steve gave us a look into the passion, the dedication, and the stories behind every collectible in his extraordinary collection. So be sure to check out Automobilia Vintage online at automobiliavintage.com for more insights, rare finds, and ways to connect with Steve's world of automotive history. You can also follow him on social media for updates and highlights from the collection via Instagram and Facebook at Automobilia Vintage.
That's right, Don. And Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming on Break Fix and sharing your story, your passion, and your incredible insights into the world of collecting with us. And we wish you the best of luck on your new startup, your new adventure that you're going on with Automobilia Vintage. So good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you both. It's wonderful to be here with both of you. Besides all of the love for cars and the love for automobilia and the love for history and all that, it's about the friends too. Don and I have been friends, and I could never forget my friends, and not that I ever would, but I just want to say that's a big part. And I want to thank both of you guys. And now, Eric, guess what? Welcome to a long friendship.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time for more stories to celebrate the spirit of cars, racing, and the people who make it all happen. Since 2007, Garage Style Magazine has been the definitive source for car collectors, continually delivering information about Automobilia, Petroliana, events, and more. To learn more about the annual publication and its new website, be sure to follow them on social media at Garage Style Magazine or log on to www.garagestylemagazine.com. Because after all, what doesn't belong in your garage?
We hope you enjoyed another awesome episode of Break Fix Podcast, brought to you by Grand Touring Motorsports. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or get involved, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Grand Touring Motorsports. And if you'd like to learn more about the content of this episode, be sure to check out the follow-on article at gtmotorsports.org. We remain a commercial-free and no annual fees organization through our sponsors, but also through the generous support of our fans, families, and friends through Patreon. For as little as $2.50 a month, you can get access to more behind-the-scenes action, additional pit stop minisodes, and other VIP goodies, as well as keeping our team of creators fed on their strict diet of Fig Newtons, gummy bears, and Monster. So consider signing up for Patreon today at www.patreon.com/GT Motorsports. And remember, without you, none of this would be possible.